September and happy Wisdom Wednesday. Shelly here with Align My Practice. Hope you're having a great week. Hope that your holiday was amazing and that you've had wonderful weather and you were able to just kind of put your feet up and relax a little bit. So if you tuned in the last couple of weeks, you know that I am doing a 4-week series on team accountability. Week 1, we talked about hiring right. You really want to hire difference makers for your practice. Week 2, we talked about successful onboarding systems. And today, week 3, we are talking about the importance of very clear job duties and descriptions. So, if you hired the right people and if you onboarded them properly, the next step for optimum accountability from your team is you need to have very clear job duties and expectations for every single person within your office. There are some duties. If let's say if you have a team of clinical assistants, you are going to have job duties, but there really needs to be a playbook, a standard procedure of operations for every single person that works in your office. And this also helps so that you, as doctors and owners or practice managers, are not being forced to micromanage. Nobody likes to micromanage and nobody wants to be micromanaged. So if your team members can show up to work and they know exactly what they need to do, when they walk through the doors, before they go to lunch, they have to maybe check these 3 boxes. When they come back from lunch, they need to do these things. And before they go home at the end of the day, they need to know exactly what's expected of them. And we're human. I know for me, like I don't have a super fantastic memory. If I have to do 100 tasks every single day, I'm not going to always remember them because life happens. There might be a patient emergency. Somebody might call out sick. We might have a last minute consultation that we're adding to the schedule. So different things can happen and kind of bungle your day up. So it's really important that you give this system and these tools to help your team members be as successful as possible so that they can leave at the end of the day feeling accomplished. They're not running behind schedule. They can go home, enjoy their family, and know that they had a great day and that they accomplished all of the tasks that you required of them. So my recommendation for you on how to get started with this is, one, everybody should have had very clear job expectations. They know exactly what their role is for the practice, what their contribution is, so that you're not having to nag them and tell them over and over and over again. So the next thing I want you to do is I want you to create really like standard procedure of operations or really a playbook for every single role within your practice so that the ship doesn't go down if this one person isn't here. So if you have a clinical assistant and in addition to their role as being an amazing assistant for your practice and your patients, but they are in charge of labs every day, there should be a playbook on really what that means. So if this person is on vacation or they're out sick, that the lab functions and systems still continue on. This means maybe calling the lab by this time, letting them know if there's a pickup. What time are we supposed to expect the cases to come back in? How do we check in the cases? Do they go in a certain drawer? What do we do with the lab ticket? All of those things. There should be a playbook for every single thing that is done in your office. This can be as simple as a morning checklist where it is the front desk responsibility to stock the coffee bar, turn on the lights, turn on the music, turn on all the computers, and unlock the door and put 3 balloons outside. Whatever that looks like, it's important that task list is created so that they can hold themselves accountable. The last thing that most doctors or managers want to do is be a micromanager. Nobody wants to be a micromanager. I think probably most people don't. And most people don't want to be micromanaged. They would rather know what's expected of them, hold themselves to that level of accountability and get their job done without having nagging. So if they can open up a like Google Sheets spreadsheet every day and go through and literally check all of the boxes on what they have to do before they go to lunch, that's going to make them have a great day. They can pace themselves. And then I like Google Sheets because it can be accessed from anyone. So let's say if you're an office manager and you need to add a special task by like calling a patient, or you want to participate in an event and you need to make sure that your registration application gets turned in on time, you can add that rather than forgetting or leaving post-its everywhere. So make sure that, and this is a process. I've worked with many offices that do not have a playbook, and this is it's a process because it's, especially depending on the size of your team, it's a lot of information. So I always like involving the team and creating their own playbook or their own task list because they know best what they do every day and how it's done effectively. These daily tasks should be time bound. There are some things within the practice that are done daily. There are things that have to be done once a week, like let's say cleaning out the traps or cleaning out sterilization solution. Maybe this is the day that you mop the floors, whatever it is. So you might have heard of setting goals like SMART. So S is for specific, M is for measurable, A is achievable, R is for relevant, and T is time bound. So making sure that those things are really outlined very clearly to all of your employees. And there needs to be accountability as far as consequences. So, like parenting, you can't tell a child to do these things. And if you don't, you're going to be grounded, and then they don't do those things, and there's no accountability there, and those consequences aren't put in place. So, for team members, you need to make sure that if you're laying out these guidelines and expectations and they are not met, they don't understand why it's relevant, it's not time bound, there are no deadlines, and they don't achieve those for you, they don't meet your expectations, there needs to be actionable consequences. So make sure that you hold your team accountable. If you're frustrated because nobody is on time and you aren't able to do your morning huddle because people are showing up at all different times, well, you're allowing that behavior to happen. They're building up those habits and you tell them to be there on time, but they're not, but nothing's being done about it. So they're like, no one cares. It's not a big deal. I'm not getting in trouble, so I'm not going to be there on time. So it's important to make sure that you have consequences to actions, and that every employee understands that. Make sure that I'm going to kind of lead that into the accountability piece for formal reprimands and things like that. It's important to have performance reviews. Performance reviews are not always attached to a raise. I know I've talked with a lot of doctors and they're saying, you know what, I'm not able to give raises right now, so I'm going to skip over my performance reviews. That's the worst thing that you could do. You just need to have a conversation with your team members and let them know that just because we're having a performance review doesn't mean that it is attached to a $1 raise every year. They need to understand from a business perspective if the business is able to afford bonuses or raises. And if they're not, they need to understand why. That's going to get your team members behind you and to support the practice, have the best interest for the practice long term, rather than just showing up for a paycheck and really wanting to get $1 raise because they've been there for another 12 months. So make sure that you are having very formal sit-down conversations and performance reviews that are very transparent. You're requesting feedback back from those employees, and that you are giving them goals that are achievable, relevant, and time bound, so that they know what your expectation is and they can achieve them for you. The last part of today's message is just to make sure that you are giving your employees growth opportunities. So continuing education, going to the AAO, bringing somebody in to come and do a lunch and learn, bringing in a consultant or a team trainer to help them improve on their skills. You need to make sure that if there are areas for improvement that your team or a specific employee that you're needing from them, you need to give them the tools to be successful. You can't just tell them to be better. You need to give them the tools to be better, sustainable tools. So make sure that you are providing that to them as well. That's also going to let them know that you value them, you care about them, that you feel like they've got immense potential, they're a wonderful asset to your practice long term, and that you want them to be there 5 years from now, and that you're going to be investing in them. I hope that today's message was great for you. I look forward to seeing you next week for part 4 of this 4-week series on team accountability. Talk soon.